Welcome, everyone. So good to see everyone's faces here. Thanks so much for joining us again for another virtual tasting. We are so excited to partner with Journeyman for this. And before we dig into that, introduce myself. My name is Sarah Rathbun. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications here at Dry Creek Vineyard. I'm joined by our Director of Hospitality, Robert Kennard, and also Kim Wallace, our winery president, and special guests, Kathy and Pete Sagacio, who we will introduce to you in just a moment. Couple quick housekeeping things. Right now, everyone is on mute, just so we can kind of keep the background noise to a minimum. Please use the chat function down at the bottom. I'm going to be monitoring that chat function and interrupting Kim and Kathy and Pete and asking all of those amazing questions that I know that you have, because I know I have a ton. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And then also something new for this one, I'm going to be using the spotlight feature a little bit. I know that Pete has a really amazing slicer that he wants us to take a look at. But so if you don't want the zoomed up photo of them after, feel free to put yourself back on gallery mode if you want to watch everyone else. And that's that little kind of grid of squares up in that top right screen of yours that you can play around with gallery or speaker mode. So, and if you have any questions, you can shoot them to me in the chat too. All right, well, without further ado, I do not want to postpone any of this wine and salumi any longer. I'll hand it over to our winery president, Kim Wallace.
Hi, everybody. It's so great to see so many familiar faces. I see Linda and Vince, and I see the Steffens and the Pipers, and I see the Bessiers, and oh my goodness, the beverages. I see so many familiar faces, and I really, really appreciate it. I'm so excited about today's tasting, and I think you're going to really, really enjoy it. I'm really thrilled. Just in case there are some people on this call that are not part of our wine club or are not familiar with Dry Creek Vineyard, just a super brief little background. So my name is Kim. I'm the second generation owner and president of our family winery, Dry Creek Vineyard. We are in our 48th year of operation. We just finished our 49th harvest. And believe it or not, we're already starting to make plans for our 50th anniversary. And some of you might know that my father, David Stair, started the winery in 1972. He was the first winemaker here after Prohibition, and really the first to plant grapes in northern Sonoma County, and is credited really with the renaissance of wine growing in Dry Creek Valley. And this is a fun little picture of me as a little girl turning over the first shovelful of dirt at the groundbreaking ceremony. And of course, right behind me, you can see those trees. Those were the leftover old prune orchard trees that were part of the property that my father bought. So he basically bought a 55-acre rundown prune orchard and had this very harebrained idea that he wanted to grow grapes and make wine. And so that was all those years ago. Gosh, it's hard to believe that we're coming up on our 50th anniversary. Today we have 185 acres of sustainably farmed vineyards, all in Dry Creek Valley, and then 2 locations in Russian River. And of course, we specialize in a number of varietals, but today we are talking about Zinfandel. So I'm really excited about that. Now I want to introduce you to my very, very dear friends, Pete and Kathy Sagacio. And you know, our relationship goes back many years. Our children grew up together. They went to the same school here in Healdsburg. And Kathy and I have gone on many vacations together. We actually, when we both turned 40, a couple of girlfriends got together.
30. When you turned 30.
Exactly. 30. You're right, it was 30. Anyway, we went on a vacation together, and we've been lifelong friends ever since. And then the husbands of the same group get together every year or two, and they go on all kinds of fun adventures. And so, you know, we're really good personal friends, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for the two of them. I want to just give you a little background, kind of a little bio, if you will. Basically, Pete has had a sort of a similar role to mine, wherein that he was the president of his family winery from 1993 to 2011. And really took that winery from, I think, maybe a winery that was making fairly simple wines to a really, truly great winery, recognized around the world for terrific Zinfandel, etc. And it was at, I think, 1993, he met this beautiful woman in New Orleans at a hotel. Kathy was working at the Pontchartrain Hotel in New Orleans, and Pete was there in New Orleans on a business trip at a wine tasting, and I think he started flirting with Kathy, and ultimately they fell in love. And
Kim, she didn't spit at the tasting.
Southern girls don't spit in public.
Yeah, she
other
didn't
girls
spit.
would spit in
She's
public.
an easy target. Easy target when they don't spit.
And once everybody sees how charming Kathy is, they're going to understand how Pete fell head over heels in love for her. Long story short, they got engaged, and she moved to California, had a background in marketing, so she joined the family winery as well and was the head of marketing and sales, and together they were the dynamic duo, and today they still are the dynamic duo. So in 2011, when Pete's large Italian family decided to sell their business, Pete had an opportunity, and Kathy, to start pursuing another passion, a completely different passion, but in some ways kind of similar, I think, to being a winemaker and a grape grower. And that is, of course, his passion for cured meats and salumi, as I've now been taught to call it, although I often say salami. And so Pete interned in Italy for 5 winters to learn the trade, and eventually opened up Journeyman here in Healdsburg in the old post office location. So I know a lot of you have been to Healdsburg, and it's on the corner across the street from Valette, and they built this gorgeous building and started their business. What has it been now? I don't know, how many years ago, Kathy?
3 years.
3 years ago. And so they are quickly becoming known as one of the top producers of their product, and they are Sonoma County's only USDA certified processor. Is that correct? Do we say, what is the word? Do we say processor or producer?
Producer, yeah, you cured meat product, yeah, artisan producer.
Artisan producer. So that is their story. And what I want to do now is kind of turn it over to Pete and Kathy to tell a little bit more about the whole process of making salumi and how and what's involved, and then we'll kind of explain. We'll go into the wines and we'll start tasting. So keep your hands off your salumis. No tasting quite yet.
Thanks. Thank you, Kim. Thank you very much.
Thanks, sweetie.
So Sarah, can you pull the fermentation shot I sent to you this morning? I think that's our aging room. So everybody can see that. There you go. So making salumi is just the plural for the category of salami. So if you have one salami, but now there's 5 salami, instead of saying 5 salami, you would say, pass me the salumi. It also just is the plural for the whole category. Coppa, Lomo, Culatello, salami, all together is known as salumi or charcuterie if you're French. What is different about our salumi is that it's very European in its taste, and it doesn't have that strong acid bite that you see with the majority of the American producers of salami. So that's why our salami tends to be better matching for wine, because it doesn't compete with the acid in the wine, because it's very European from an acid standpoint. So salami's like wine in that we add sugar, we have bacteria, we use 5 different Italian bacteria, but we mix the meat, we add the bacteria, we add a very small amount of sugar, and the meat is fermented. We ferment at a lower temperature. This is a picture of one of our fermentation chambers, and the salami is in there for about 5 days. The meat is heated up to 72 to 74 degrees, where the American industry is closer to 100 degrees. So the salami for most American producers is cooked, but when you ferment fast, it's going to age fast. So the big producers, these are chubs. And these are going to be about a 6.5 ounce chub. The stuffing weight, the raw weight, is about 11 ounces. But net, I'm already getting the eye from my wife. But a fast fermentation means it's going to age fast. So the big guys can do this in 12 days. At Journeyman, it's done the European way, lower fermentation temperature. So these chubs take about 30 days to age. So after 5 days in the fermenter, Sarah, can you go to the aging room? So after 5 days, so there's the 4 fermentation chambers. In these pictures, you can see some whole muscle, you can see some culatello and some copa in door 2, and then some more chubs in door 3. We have 4 different chambers, but the temperature of the fermentations at 72 to 74, then it goes 70 to 72, then it goes 68 to 70, 66 to 68. It steps down, and at the end of 5 days, it's at 56 degrees, which is the same temperature as our aging room. Sarah, go to the aging room. So this is the main aging room where we have both large format, which are on the right and the left, and then the pretty little chubs that are what we sell at the shop.
And what you guys have.
And what you have are the chubs are right in the center. But this room it's all Italian technology. It's all from Parma. And a lot of the learning was, I learned from the Marini family. The protocol that we follow is the same of the Marini family in Florence, Italy. So it's an Italian way. It's Italian components from Italy. And it's an amazing room. The edges of the room are where the fresh air comes in. The air goes down the sides of the room, and we actually have coves on the floor so that air goes down and then goes into the middle of the room, and then it goes up and it gets extracted out. And we gently mix the air every 2 to 3 hours. If you mix the air too much, you'll cause a crust. If you don't mix it enough, then you'll have you can have too much humidity and then too much of an ammonia smell in the meat. So it's a fermented product, and the speed of fermentation influences the pore size. So a hot fermentation means larger pores, means that it's going to dry out and age quicker, and so you'll have a lot higher acidity. And it's typical American, and it's tangy, and it's not that good. When you ferment low temperature, you have smaller pores, so the aging process takes a lot longer. So this is, our product takes twice as long as the typical American producer because we make it the European way.
Kim, it's so much like wine, right? So it's all about the ingredients, right? Having the great ingredients to start, and then fermentation, lower, colder, and then and longer, and then a very long aging, right?
What about the beef? Or excuse me, the meat. Tell us about the meat, the selection of the meat. And
selection of the meat we have worked. There's a full year of working with different meat suppliers to find the best combination of meat that is the cleanest possible meat as well. A lot of people don't know, but salami doesn't have a kill step. It's not, none of this product is cooked. So you have to start with very clean meat. So we buy directly from the processing, right from the producer that has its own processing facility. So there's only a few that have the best quality breeds, heritage pork. These are larger animals. These are all Duroc. And this is a state-of-the-art facility. We buy from one facility that we like the best out of Iowa, out of Sioux City. It's on the western edge of Iowa. It's all pasture-raised pork, all ABF certified free pork.
What does that mean?
Antibiotic free.
Antibiotic free.
Okay.
And no hormones, and 100% vegetarian feed, and
no cages,
no
none of
cages,
that. I mean,
pasture raised, and
one bad day. We say one bad day.
That's what Daria would always say. So it's and then the other main source is a family producer out of Washington State. In Italy, the fat is almost more important than the meat. And the fat that we use is from animals from the Journeyman Ranch up in northern Washington State. And we just use the back fat. The higher up on the animal, the firmer, the harder the fat. And you'll see in our salami, the fat is little white pearls. It's not a smush. It's not a swirl. It has great definition. And that's because barley raised hogs have firmer, drier fat. And it's just more pristine, and it has more flavor. But it's, most people will use corn raised hogs for their fat, and they'll add non-fat dry milk, which is cheating. None of the Europeans use non-fat dry milk. If you look at the other chubs out there on the marketplace, you'll see non-fat dry milk in the ingredient list, and that's a sin. We only use it in the Parmesan and porcini, because Parmesan, to get it to bind with the meat, it's very difficult. So, but that's why the big producers use non-fat dry milk, is it adds weight and it allows them to bind up lesser quality fat. So we're using the best quality pork, the best quality fat, and all of the spice components are all from whole spice out of Petaluma, which is the freshest local spice that you can get, and made all here in Sonoma County. So it's a little different than
Wow.
We have our first question already from Carol asking, what exactly is happening during this fermentation process? Is the yeast consuming sugar? Kind of what is actually the fermentation process?
The bacteria is eating the sugar, and they're producing lactic acid. So the pH of meat starts at 6, and then with the acid production, that drops the pH below 5.3. So we have to document every batch, every tree. So that cart that you saw in the fermentation room, we call that a tree. Every tree is tested and has to drop pH below 5.3 within 48 hours. And so that is, that's a USDA requirement. But the bacteria, and these are 5 Italian bacteria that are in the bacteria that we use, that fermentation produces acid, that drops down the pH of the meat, and that's one of the components that makes it safe. That, in combination with dehydration through the aging process and the use of cure, is what makes it safe. So it will ferment and be at lower pH, but it won't be safe to eat until it has a minimum number of days. So like a chub has to have 19 days of aging, a large format. So like large format, this would be a large format. This is larger than a chub. The minimum days for this is 35 days. We go 60, but there's a minimum legal requirement.
Those are USDA requirements?
Those are USDA requirements. But the amount of sugar and the temperature determines the pH. So we use a very small amount of sugar to get just enough of a fermentation to make it safe, but it's more European in its style. Other people will use 3 or 4 times the sugar and ferment at a higher temperature for a more robust fermentation, but then you produce more acidity from the fermentation. And that's why the large producers, it all tastes like a salad, because it's too much acid production.
Somebody asked a really good question. They read my mind. Sarah, can you read that off about
Yeah,
that?
absolutely. Linda and Vince were wondering kind of what is the white on the outside of the salumi? And I know we have to kind of move on to actually tasting some here soon, but maybe you could answer that kind of quickly. And then also, do you use any beef products, or is it all pork?
It's all pork. So the white is just, there can be, white can either be the mold, because the salami is loaded with mold. So if you—
Good mold.
Good mold. It's
Like cheese.
Yes, just like mold that will grow on cheese, the white mold. And since once that salami is cut into, after 3 or 4 days, you will see some mold specks start to grow. That's not going to hurt anything. Just cut that off or rub that off, or just eat it. It's not going to hurt you. The other thing that you will see on some of the salami is over time, you'll see some salt crystals that will have a white crystalline look to that. And that's just salt coming out over time. So those are the two.
Great. Well, I've already learned a whole bunch already, and I know there's a lot of great questions, but I think we probably should start moving on. So just everybody, I wanted to tell you kind of a couple of weeks, or I guess it's been a couple of months now, Pete and Kathy brought a whole assortment of salumi to the winery for us to taste and to choose what we might want to feature at this tasting, and also so we could determine which wines to pick. And that's where Robert comes in, and also Ian and Sarah and Darren and so many of all the people that you know. We all gathered around in the tasting room, and it was really a lot of fun. It was also very difficult. And, you know, we kind of came up with, I think, an agreement that the wines that we thought paired best were the heritage vines Zinfandel, of course. And that's the one that we are going to sort of recommend you start with. And then follow that with the Wallace Ranch Zinfandel, and then the Four Clones Zinfandel, and then the last one is the Vogensen. So you don't have to certainly taste these wines in that order with the Salumi, but that's sort of how we landed. And I think part of it is that it's not that the wine, we're sort of maybe going from the more elegant style to the more, maybe the bolder style. I think we sort of did it intuitively, which is also how we kind of selected the Salumis. And so I don't know, we're not really trying to, there's not sort of a Salumi with a wine, because we want you to taste all the Salumis with each wine. But for how we ended up, we sort of felt that, and I don't know if this is worth it, if I should share this, but I'll just, maybe, shall I share kind of which Salumis we thought went best with the wine?
Yeah, sure,
okay.
Absolutely.
So let's, maybe everybody can just have a sip of the Heritage Zin. Mm-hmm. So for our little impromptu tasting group in the tasting room, we thought the Rosso and the Pio and the Fio, I can never say it right, Kathy. Is it
Finocchiona?
Finocchiona.
Like Pinocchio.
Right. Finocchiona. And then, and maybe this would be a good time for you guys to, maybe we should start tasting these Salumis, and you can tell us, like, what are they and why are they called Rosso, Pio, and Finocchiona?
I think the best thing too to recommend to you guys first is take a sip of the wine first, and then then have the Salumi, and then have the wine again, and we'll all be happy at the end of the tasting. But that is the best way to taste. And I agree with you. I think the Pio is a really beautiful pairing with this wine. The Pio is very interesting. It's sort of the Salumi that started all of this for us. It is Peter's grandmother's recipe that she brought with her from Italy as a young bride, and it's the recipe his father made year in and year out in December. And this was, Pete's father was very frugal, and so this was his gift to everyone. He would make this with pigs that were rooting up the vineyard, and then make it in the cellar and hang it in the cellar to dry. So we're very lucky no one died. And but curing meat, it's why salt was more valuable than gold at one point in the world, right? Because it was a way to cure the meats and save the meats. But Pio is very simple Piemontese, sort of Northern Italian. So it's nutmeg, clove, and allspice. And I don't know, I find that it's really a beautiful pairing.
It does sort of have I don't know, maybe a holiday flavor with those, spices.
It does, sort of that clove and nutmeg. Absolutely, Kim. What do you think?
No, I agree. It's, we have done I think it goes great with it. I like the Pio with it, or the Fino. Finocchiona would probably be my two picks with it.
Tell us about the Finocchiona, because I have to admit, everybody, this is my favorite.
I just love.
That's my favorite too.
I mean, with the Marini family, they would use they would use fennel pollen, white fennel. There was 4 different types of fennel that we would use when I interned there, and they would use multiple types of fennel in their Finocchiona, with the belief that it adds complexity and layers of flavor. And so I see that fennel pollen gives us a different characteristic than fennel seed, and fennel seed gives us a different characteristic than ground fennel. And the 3 together add wonderful complexity. Lorenzo Ortogna, who is the Italian consulate general for the West Coast of America, we gave him a bunch of salami to help get Joey into summer school in Italy. and he swore that he said this Finocchiona is the best Finocchiona he's had in America. He would
outside of Tuscany.
Yeah, he would not say, for all of the world, but including Italy.
And you guys should know, so Finocchiona is very typical in Tuscany. And if you guys have traveled there, and that's where Pete interned, not only with Dario Giacchini, who's probably the most famous butcher in the world, but with the Marini family, just right outside of Tuscany in the town of Vinci, which where Leonardo was found. But it's, but fennel grows, there's Dario. Fennel grows abundantly in Tuscany, a lot like Sonoma County. I mean, when you walk on the Russian River in the summer, you know, all of us that live here, you smell fennel. It grows alongside our road, and you know, just wild fennel. It's amazing. So it's kind of fun, and so it's going to be a natural pairing with these wines that are made in the same area, right?
And I think, Kim, just from the wine perspective, the other Zinfandels are bolder, are bigger. They're almost slightly Bordeaux-like because of the great structure that they have. You know, I think the heritage is more supple, a little more voluptuous, and sweeter fruit. And I think as a softer wine, it needs a Salumi that's a little more elegant. And I think the Finocchione is the most elegant of the group for my taste.
Robert, doesn't that make you feel good? We instinctively knew. We didn't know why we liked them together, but we just instinctively, I think, made the right decision.
I think we're pretty good at what we do. I think I'd put us up against.
So the picture, gentlemen, that you showed is Dario Giacchini. Like, just show of hands. Does anyone know who Dario Giacchini is? Anyone traveled to Tuscany and gone to his place there in Panzano? Dario, the guy that was holding Pete up, is probably the most famous butcher in the world. And he's been on, gosh, what is this show? The Chef's Table. He's quite extraordinary and traveled the world. He's actually married to a woman from the Bay Area. So he comes to the Bay Area kind of frequently and was here in Healdsburg. And that little outfit that he wears, if you watch him on the Chef's Table, that's actually fabulous.
Does he actually dress like that?
Yeah.
His entire closet is those little
red,
purple, green, and white Italian colored flag vest, and red Crocs, and he's a character. And he came to Healdsburg, and it was in January. Healdsburg's kind of sleepy in January, and he walks around. He's got this little horn, and he toots this little horn, and buongiorno. But he is the most amazing man. And if you go to Italy, you should travel to this little town in Panzano. And he has a following there that's unbelievable. People from all over the world, but he's a big rock and roll guy. So he has all these, if you go there, you will very likely see some rock and roll superstar in here. Oh. So AC/DC, Metallica, I wouldn't know who they are. I'd probably be scared of them, but.
Hey, Kim, do you want to just quickly touch on why we call it Heritage Vines Zinfandel?
Sure. Oh, yes. So the heritage vines it's not just a cute marketing term. This is named after the propagation technique that we spearheaded or we pioneered here at the winery back in the early 90s. So as many of you know, Dry Creek Valley was settled by the Italians in the late 1800s. Families like Pete's planted Zinfandel. And unfortunately, a lot of the Zinfandel was replaced after Prohibition or during Prohibition, and we lost a lot of vines, you know, when the valley converted to prune orchards. But there were still some wonderful old Zinfandel vineyards producing when my family arrived in the early 70s. However, more Zinfandel vines were being torn out for a variety of reasons, and in the late 80s, early 1990s, we started a technique where we collected old vine budwood from one of the really famous vineyards. You guys would know it, Pete and Kathy, the Mazzoni Ranch in Geyserville, and basically grafted that onto new rootstock that was planted in front of my house, which happened to coincide when we bought our property directly south of the winery. And so the wine that we released was released in 1997, I think. And we called it Heritage Clone Zinfandel, because what we were trying to do was sort of capture kind of those legacy heirloom characteristics of old vine Zinfandel. So wonderful spice tones like coriander and cardamom and black pepper, and some of those darker fruit tones, blackberry, you know, black raspberry, plums, in a newer, younger Zinfandel vineyard. And at the time, people thought that a young vineyard wouldn't be as complex as an older vineyard. So this propagation technique was an attempt at preserving the legacy of old vine Zinfandel in a new young vineyard. So we don't call it heritage clone Zinfandel anymore because the term clone kind of got a bad rap a while ago, back with those British when they were cloning all those sheep. So we just renamed it Heritage Vine Zinfandel, and it's become, of course, our flagship Zinfandel, and I'm really proud. And I know I can brag to Pete and Kathy because they've encouraged us here at the winery to really achieve great heights with our Zinfandels. And this is the one that made the top 100 in Wine Spectator last year, and of course is a wonderful value and a terrific wine. But I think inherently it is a little bit more of an elegant style. Part of that is that I was looking at my stat sheets here, and it is, of course, all of these wines are aged in barrels, various barrels, but this is the wine that probably has it's 14 and a half to 15 months of aging in barrels, whereas some of the wines that we're going to taste have a little bit more time in oak. So they might be just bolder for that reason. I would love to know why you call it the Rosso, and why are so my little fat holes in the Rosso are bigger.
Say that again.
The fat is
The fat in my Rosso, for example, when I compare I know you said it earlier, Pete, but I didn't understand it. You said something about the size of the fat in the Salumi.
Well, just that it's going to be more distinctive white pearls as to what you see with other producers, where you will see swirls. And
so having having these pearls is
just better definition that the higher quality fat holds together, where if it was lower quality fat, this would be swirls. They wouldn't be little beads of,
because it would be sort of smeared in and mixed.
Yeah,
right?
It breaks down when it's mixed. So higher quality fat holds its complexity, holds its shape better.
That is fascinating. I bet that was an aha moment. I see some heads nodding because that's really interesting to me. Now, you call it Rosso. I assume there's some red wine in it, in the recipe?
Yes, excuse me.
He's eating. So the Rosso is made particularly with spices. So Pete and I are lucky enough to have, some of you guys may have heard of the restaurant Single Thread, which is, I think, the fastest three Michelin star restaurant in the world or in history. We're friends with the chef and his wife. They actually farm at our vineyard. Their 2-acre farm for the restaurant is at our vineyard, and Katina is very much about heritage seeds and heritage plants, and knows so many different varietals of herbs and vegetables. So we worked with them to identify herbs that were sort of indigenous, probably not the proper word, but that would grow wild in Sonoma County. And we created a Rosso and a Bianco, 2 Salumi that we worked on the recipes for over a year to go with white wines and red wines. And they have indigenous, if you will, herbs of Sonoma. So go ahead.
Yeah, these have all been herbs that have been here for at least 100 years. That was one of the important lessons I learned from Dario, was focus on your area. Tuscany was always, they had always had natural juniper around. Juniper was one of Dario's favorite spices. And so, when we realized it was one of the, it's commonly found here in Sonoma County, just seemed like a natural. And you don't taste juniper that much in a salami, and it's very distinctive, very unique. And the wine additions, whether it's Zinfandel or Pinot or Chardonnay or Cabernet, the wine additions are going to add a wonderful spice component. So we add 1 to 2% of the whole mixture is wine, 100% Sonoma County wine. And that 1 to 2%, as an example, is the same amount of garlic. Excuse me, sorry about that. It's the same amount of spice amount that garlic is in the mix. So it is, you know, it's as important. Wine is as integral as garlic is. That's what's unique about using wine in salami. And the large producers would never, they're using box wine if they're using wine at all. We're using Sonoma County wine.
I have a hunch you have no shortage of fantastic wine that you could put into your salamis.
Well, we do. The main thing is, you know, I think one of the most important things that we do is we take our barrel staves and we use that to make barrel bacon. So that's a lot.
Barrel bacon. Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yes.
Well, Robert, what do you think? I know Robert looks like he's in the cellar, everyone. You look very handsome, by the way. He's actually in his office, and I can just imagine his desk is littered with salumi everywhere.
I've just got Kathy was nice enough to make these, I don't want to brag, but
show everyone.
She put these, it's kind of upside down. I'm probably not going to do it justice, but she made us these great little trays. And she threw, it looks like some aged Gouda on there and some Cornichon, some pickles and whatnot. So really fantastic there. What I'm enjoying is just the thread. It reminds me how everybody has very unique palates, and sort of your life experience and the things that you've gone through make your palate different than anybody else's. And I've been really kind of focusing on, I don't want to skip ahead, but I keep going back to the sopressata. And somebody had mentioned it in a question earlier, and it's got a little heat to it. And I think that maybe in our tasting, I might be the guilty party for pushing this. I'm a Southern California native. I moved up here to Sonoma County about a little over 30 years ago, but I grew up down in San Diego, and it was all about hot sauce and salsas and all that stuff went on everything. And I tend to integrate all of that into all of the foods that I make. And I'm at my house, my wife is from the Midwest. Her family's from Wisconsin, from Waukesha area. And she's got a considerably lighter food palate than I do. So I'm always getting blamed for throwing too much hot sauce into stuff. So that being said, the sopressata, I'll go to the Rosso first. The Rosso I'm really loving with the Wallace Ranch Zinfandel. I was talking with Darren Abel today. I think you probably all know Darren, one of our rock stars, concierge, and wine educators in the tasting room. And we were both talking about Wallace, about how personally to us, it was one of our favorite Zinfandels because it's just so outside of the box of Zinfandel. It's not your classic big black cracked pepper. It's very elegant. The fruit on it is very much red. You get a lot more sort of cranberry and cherry. And the pepper is very much sort of, you know, white pepper and Asian spice. And it's a really exotic Zinfandel. And you know, I don't want to say it's as light as Pinot because it's not, but it flirts in that area. And I think it goes well with a lot of those kind of foods. So the Rosso and the Finocchiona are really fantastic pairings for me with Wallace. And then to jump over to the Sopressata, you know, my dream pairing, like the last thing I get to eat on this earth, is going to be a big tall glass of spicy Zinfandel and, you know, Italian food. You know, for me, it's the comfort foods. It's just the plain spaghetti with a red meat sauce, or like a penne with a meat sauce. And because I'm me, I'm throwing a little bit of, there's a little hot sauce I'll throw in my red sauce to spice it up a little bit. And I think that that's a really excellent pairing with the four clones. The Sopressata is what I'm enjoying now. So. Be careful what you ask, Kim.
Can I interject?
Yes.
So, look, Robert, I disagree with you. I don't think it pairs that well, but it's the best damn salami on the platter. That's our best recipe. And the Sopressata, that is the best.
I like the Pinot.
That's the best darn recipe we make. If I'm going to eat one of our salami, it's that Sopressata. So
okay, so I want to know how you make
with any of them.
Tell us how you make it, because one of the first things I noticed with the sopressata, and do you say sopressata? Sada? Okay. So
yeah.
It has obviously a little more spice, but it also has a little bit more richness. It's a little bit more, there's a texture to it that's kind of very velvety and not as dry. It's a little fuller, you know, there's a richness to it, almost like, I mean, I feel like if you eat a lot of this, you could eat probably more of, say, the Finocchione, which seems a little drier. What is that from? Obviously, it's, I suppose, the fat content, but how do you make it that way?
The fat content is a little bit higher.
Sorry to interrupt. And the other thing is the color is different. Mine is very red.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, it's one of the great secrets. I don't know that I should tell you. It's one of the greatest secrets. I mean, this is years of, I mean, y'all can't laugh.
Can you hit it?
But
We're
and
watching.
it doesn't leave this room, this extended room. But I have a dear Sicilian friend, Mickey Lametta. And so on one of the recipes that we developed together, we add sweet Calabrian chili paste to a Sicilian sausage. So when you use this sweet Calabrian chili paste, it is amazing. And the color, Kim, goes to that color.
Interesting.
So it's incredibly expensive. It takes a year in advance. We import it from Italy, but it's sweet Calabrian chili paste is a critical ingredient in this salami, and it's my favorite one. I mean, my dad is probably turning over in his grave because he's Northern Italian, and here I am making our favorite salami with Calabrian chili paste. But my mom's side of the family is Pasalacqua from Calabria, and so it's in me, and I can't get it out of me. And that soppressata is what I want to eat every day.
That's delicious. Well, it's interesting because so our little winery group kind of leaned towards the 4 clones for this. I think partly, so the 4 clones is it's the tiny little vineyard in front of the winery that we planted a number of years ago in the same style as, like the Vogensen Ranch or our old line Zinfandel. So it's head pruned, dry. It's a modern vineyard planted like they would have done 100 plus years ago. Dry farmed, head pruned, extremely low yielding. And it's a brilliant vineyard. It tends to express itself in a very spicy way, even though the vineyard is only, what was our first vintage, Robert? I think 2011. Yeah, 2011. So
2009, first vintage 2011.
Yeah, so that's considered a fairly young vineyard, for especially for Zinfandel, but it doesn't drink like a young vineyard. It's got tremendous amount of richness and complexity and then spice, and I don't know if part of it might be we have a couple of percent of Alicante Boucher blended in, which again is right here in front of the winery. We planted that a number of years ago. But for me, of the wines, the first 3 wines anyway, I like this with the Soppressata. I like it better than the Heritage vines, and I definitely like it better than the Wallace. I like it with the 4 clones.
I think, Kim, one of the important things, when you have heat, you accentuate alcohol. And I believe the 4 clones has the lowest alcohol.
I think yes, I think you're right. It's like 13.9 or something like that.
So that's the only thing with spicy salami. You have to be careful about high alcohol zins, but these are not. And this is the lowest one. And I think there's a sweetness to the 4 clones. There's a sweetness to the Soppressata. I think it is a great pairing, even though Robert was reckless. I think it was great.
So Pete, we've made it this far and you haven't really mentioned, I don't know if everybody can see how thinly you sliced our salami.
Yes, please tell us about
I know that you're dying to tell us about this.
Oh no, it is, I don't know if you can see it, but this is
Here, I'll bring it closer.
This is typical. We imported 40 of these machines, and this is what we use in the shop. In Italy, the legend that they talk about is that salumi has better aroma if you hand slice it, either with a knife or with the machine like this, because a slower speed is not going to cauterize the meat. So you have better aroma. And so that's why at the shop, we have this is the 250. We have a 300 size at the shop. We have 3 of them, but this is the same company that makes Burkle. And so we were lucky enough to have a direct relationship with them, and we bought a bunch of them.
We don't use electric slicers because it would go too fast and it heats up, and then it would smear the fat. So honestly, like if you're at home and you don't have one of these, and and I almost forbade this coming into our house because it's a little expensive and I'm frugal, but so I use this. So these silly little picnic knives
They're thin. They work
they're
really
awesome. But tiny little picnic knife. And then Kim, we sold our last guillotine today. So for Christmas last year, I gave Kim a little thing that we use. Pete found because he was with Sonoma County Wineries or the Sonoma County Tourism Association, went to New York. And there's a little thing called the guillotine. We have them in the shop. And if you guys are interested, you can, we have them coming from France right now. But it does slice the salumi really thin. And it's almost like slicing it thin is almost like swirling your glass, right? Because you get more of the expression and more flavor from the salumi when you slice it really thin. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah, that was one of the other aha moments for us here at the winery, everyone, that, we were trying to slice the salumi with a, regular knife, and it's pretty hard to get it narrower than maybe an 1/8 inch, depending on who's slicing it. And it really does make a huge difference. When are you getting more of the guillotines in?
They're on the way from France now, so they should be in they were supposed to be in today, so they may be there now. I don't know.
So that would be a really cool Christmas or Hanukkah present. Yeah. And I bet you Lee Steffens doesn't have one. I bet you Matt Piper doesn't have one. I can see a whole bunch of people on this screen that would probably love one of these for Christmas. So tell us, okay, so let's now, I guess the Vogensen Ranch, I'll just tell you briefly. So the Vogensen Ranch is the wine that probably has the most extreme growing conditions. This is grown in the northwestern side of Dry Creek Valley, fairly steep in elevation. And I would say the terroir, or at least the soil anyway, is very different than the other 3 Zinfandels. This is in that area that's the high iron content, really bright red soils. Some of you may have visited this vineyard. This is a picture of it. And it's also very rocky. I think, Sarah, do you have that other photograph that the soil looks just a little more red? But anyway, it's on the northwestern side of the valley. And we get that high iron content, of course, for the Bordeaux varietals is fantastic. But Matt Vogensen, who is our longtime vineyard manager, and his father, before he passed away, grew the grapes, and now Matt is growing the grapes, and Matt also manages all of our estate vineyards for us. These are grapes from his home vineyard. So that's why we call it Vogensen Ranch, after him, Matt Vogensen. But I think for me anyway, this is the wine that is probably I guess the boldest, maybe the most rich, the biggest, if you will. I don't remember what the alcohol is. I can't remember, but certainly the growing conditions are the most extreme. And so when we were in our tasting of all of Pete and Kathy's salumis, the one salumi that was a little bit controversial, but we did love it, was this Parmesan porcini. And we vacillated, we liked the salumi, but we didn't know if it went with the wine. And then we got to the Vogensen Ranch, and it was great because this is a very full flavored salumi, right? There's a lot of flavor, and this is a very full flavored Zinfandel. And I don't know, I just remember really enjoying it. So I'm gonna shut up and let you tell us how you make this salumi.
This is a very controversial salumi with the Italians.
With Italians, Kim.
Oh, really?
Because we're adding cheese. And
is that sacrilegious, never done?
Yeah, that's not something that you see that's done in Italy, but here it is. We just experimented one day and just loved the results, because I saw in Italy on my internships, you would see salami with little cubes of fat and in the center. So when you cut it, there's a little perfect square of fat, hand trimmed, and it's neat decor. But I don't think Americans want more fat. So we tried playing with cheese, chunks of cheese. Initially, we ground it too fine, but finally we figured out the final mixing is when we add the chunks of cheese. And so,
you could see it, yeah.
and so if it's white, it's fat. If it's yellow, it's Parmesan cheese. But what we see is that Parmesan cheese is one of the greatest pairings with higher tannin wines. And I think that's why it works so well. Yes, there's porcini, and there's a lot of times a porcini characteristic in more Bordeaux-like wines, whether it's Cabernet or Zinfandel. But I think the Parmesan cheese really helps take away the tannin and soften the tannin in the wine. And that's why it's a great pairing with this wine.
I love it. You know, for me, it's almost like that umami thing. You've got that salty sweet. So the porcini Parmesan is kind of salty, and it's sort of granular. The texture is very different. It's a little bit more rustic, I think, maybe. And I guess maybe for me, what's happening with the Vogensen Ranch is it's bringing out the sweetness. So it's like a salty sweet thing, which like, I love that. That's my
pairing.
Yeah.
Fabulous pairing. And Kim and I both have husbands that love to hunt porcini mushrooms.
Yes, they do. I was going to ask you, Pete, where do you get your porcinis? I'm assuming you must buy them from a producer, from a forager.
Yes, every ingredient has to be commercially available in the U.S. and have a commercial label.
So you can't forage for porcinis?
No,
not for this. No,
we can't.
But we do. That's for the risotto at home.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And Pete, actually, Eugenia and Lee were out wondering, do you import the Parmesan?
Yes. Yeah.
And where from?
It's Italian Parmesan that is added to the mixer.
I love this one. Well, I love this one.
That's a beautiful pairing, Kim. That wine is amazing.
That works great. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, Robert, anything to add here? I know we're doing the happy dance here. This is a nice way to spend a Thursday afternoon.
Yeah, I would just throw in a plug real quick for has everybody here actually been to Journeyman while they've been in Healdsburg? Yeah,
raise your hands. Nope. Okay.
Okay, good.
Familiar faces, thank you.
Sarah, can
we
you
have a couple people coming in on the chat about that they're Salumi Club members.
So I recognize a lot of your faces, and I know that a lot of you come visit us at the winery. So I would just give a little plug to, the next time you guys come out, if you get a VRBO or you get a house or something that you're renting that has a grill, not only does Journeyman make excellent salumi, but it's, arguably the best sausage in town. And Pete and Kathy get a hold of some incredible steaks. It's definitely worth you want to swing by their shop and check out what they got if you're going to be grilling something at home, because it's really some of the best quality meat that I've seen in Healdsburg. So they're right next door to Single Thread. They're on Center Street across from kind of the toy store and Dustin Villette's place there. And that would be my little plug. Do yourself a favor next time you guys come to Healdsburg, because it's a really great find. Definitely.
And I see a couple, I think Stephanie Beveridge said that she's a member, maybe. Well, speaking of membership, so my dad is 81 years old. A lot of you know him. What do you get your dad for Christmas, right? The guy, he doesn't have everything, but it's like hard to find things for him for Christmas. So my father last year, I went in and I said, Kathy, let me get my dad a membership to your club. And so that's what I got my father for Christmas, and it made a wonderful gift. So, and it's different, and it's fun, and I know a lot of you, all of you are foodies, you're wine lovers, so you might consider that as a possible holiday gift. But I love these wines. I feel like
this is what the club looks like.
Oh, that's so cute. And that's
we are so charmed that your dad is in, and whenever he walks into the shop, we make a deal over him, and he gets embarrassed by me. I think he must be like, that damn girl. But he's iconic, and he needs to be adored. And so whenever he comes in, and he comes in mostly for hot dogs, which is
I know.
I can't believe that he's a hot dog guy. But anyway, this is our little club pack, and I know, thank you guys, those of you that are in the club, I recognize all your faces and your names. But this is our little club. We send it out quarterly. It's only thank you, Kim, for the plug. But it has 2 chubs in it. These are not our chubs.
What?
These are props in here. So no, we order a lot of salumi from all over to taste it. And sometimes when we don't love them, I use them as props. So they're in here. They're probably been in
That
here.
is so funny. So that's kind of like when we do competitive tastings here, right? Anyway.
Exactly.
So the next club shipment is going to be what? Oh, Cowboy.
Cowboy and Campo.
Cowboy and Campo. So Cowboy is a recipe that is from North Dakota, and it's from a real cowboy. It was passed down by his family, and he used to, they used to cure the pork and made it basically like a jerky and keep it in the trail bag. So we've taken that spice mix and made it into a salami, and that's why it's called Cowboy. We make the salami for Dino's place. We may be using one of Dino's recipes for the club. So for next year, maybe doing more Western Valette. So there's a lot of neat stuff with the club.
The last club was Pliny. We made Pliny the salami. So the very famous beer here in Sonoma County is Pliny the Elder and Pliny the Younger, and so we made it. Pliny.
And maybe one day there'll be a Dry Creek.
Hey, maybe there needs to be a Dry Creek one. There you go. Well, I feel like I'm dying to hear. Maybe Sarah, do you think it'll be total chaos if we open it up? And
it'll be total chaos, but if I open everybody up. But if you would like to unmute yourself to ask a question, then we can do it that way. So if anybody wants to speak up and share some of their favorites, now is a good time to kind of unmute yourself and politely wait your turn.
Oh my gosh, these are delicious. Well, I'm very curious too what the cheese is that you put on the cheese board. Robert said it was an aged Gouda, but is that what it is?
It's not. You know what it is? Cofield Creamery. It is an aged cheddar, believe it or not, that is made in Sonoma County. And the cheesemonger, is that the right word? Is British. And so, and I believe he worked at Neal's Yard. So he makes this beautiful aged cheddar and sells it in the Barlow. And,
really good.
It almost tastes like Parmesan, doesn't it?
It's really, really good.
That's what it is. And it's kind of amazing. And on the boards, just kind of as a little, tidbit, we send boards and to Sarah and Robert and Kim. But I don't know if you guys can see this. So this is just sort of what we put together. So just a little tidbit. I always add. Kim mentioned that our building is in the post office. The post office in Healdsburg always had a giant Volkswagen-size bush of rosemary. And so the lore is that no chef in Healdsburg ever ordered rosemary as an herb. They would all go to the post office and nip it. And so it's been our task at this building. We saved the rosemary, we transplanted it. Rosemary doesn't like to be transplanted. Don't even try. And because I had a very expensive experiment, but just clip herbs from your yard. So blossoms from the oregano and a little thyme, and we always put that on the board. And one thing I learned from my girlfriend Kim is so Kim don't you have a persimmon tree?
Oh yeah. And I gotta give Dawn credit. It's Dawn's persimmon tree.
Right, but it's amazing. So I remember going to their house one day, and Kim sliced this and put manchego on it and balsamic.
Yes.
It was one of the best and most beautiful seasonal
and simple appetizers.
Appetizers ever. So always on your board, always put something that's seasonal, right? So slice this really thin and put that on the board, and just
manchego.
Cheese. Yeah. Manchego's amazing.
That's good.
Right. What she said.
There, Stephanie, did you guys want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we attended a couple of Christmases ago the sausage making class that you did, and it was so much fun, and it was so wonderful, and the sausages that we made were a huge hit. We did what you recommended. They were for the holidays. It was Christmas breakfast. And they just flew. I mean, they disappeared immediately, and it was so much fun. We look forward to when we might be able to do something like that again.
Yeah. We almost cried. We talked to Sonoma County Health because we'd like to do it outside. We were going to do it December 5th, but they're limiting us to 12 people
From the same household.
From the same household, and we
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
we are crying for you guys, and we we're thinking
we thought about sending it out for people to do, but if you don't have a stuffer,
who's going to have a stuffer? So that sausage is the avi. That the recipe that you did, it's the avi, and it's available at the shop. But no, as soon as we can legally get back together, that sausage day, and Kim will do one over at your place. When you have
it was so good. It was so wonderful.
And 100 pounds of raw pork, and you cook it up on a griddle and put it on a little bit of French bread with some Zinfandel. There's nothing like it.
Yeah. Let's plan on that. Robert and Sarah and Pete. Yeah, we can't forget. That's a great idea. Maybe, I don't know, if we're lucky enough, maybe by next.
Do it at her place.
Yeah, we can. We used to do it. We used to do it when
in the garage.
In the garage, and then we did it in the Sagacio cellar. And now that we're USDA, we know all the protocols to keep it safe, and so we'd love to do it. And yeah, if you want to do it with your, it'd be
absolutely, we would love to do it. Yeah, we just, as you were implying, we just need to kind of work our way through this COVID thing when we can all get together and be in the same room and pat backs and shake hands. But yeah, I think that would be super exciting. And let's be optimistic and say it's going to be in 2021.
There we go.
That was great. We'll be there.
Oh, Stephanie, you'll be there. Perfect.
We'll be there. We'll be the first to sign up. I swear. And we just were wondering how we can order the sausage from the store. Just call or.
Yeah, you know what, you guys. So Kathy, CATHY at journeymanmeat.com. Just email me, and we did a sausage pack for. We tend not to, just because I can't, it's very hard to ship fresh meat and expensive, but email me and we'll make it work. Absolutely. We'd love to do that. Love to do that.
And Pete, we did have a question about what is the best temperature to serve salumi at. So I just wanted to get that in before anybody starts kind of.
Thank you.
Salami is like wine. You want to keep it cellar temperature or refrigerated, but it's like a red wine. You don't want to serve it at 72. You want to serve it at, say, 55 or 60. It's the same for salami. So.
Okay, good to know. Do you have a special refrigerator for your salumi at home?
No, I put it in the regular fridge. Fridge.
And listen, sometimes I just leave it in my car because I have boys.
Stop
right?
it.
And
don't say that.
I know he doesn't want to hear it. But you know what? And they need to eat, and they're not. It's not going to kill them. It has no expiration date. It's why men sail the seas.
But it's
why America was discovered.
It's a probiotic entity. You don't want to bake it like wine.
I have a funny thing to tell everybody. So I know most of the people on this call, or a lot of you anyway, maybe not most, but a lot of you know my husband, Don, right? The Eagle Scout, the guy that you want to be with when the end of the world comes, because he will feed you and you will be safe and all of that.
Yep.
Anyway, I have a very robust and very, just a very well thought out emergency backpack in the back of my car, right? And in theory, I can live in my car for 5 days. And and a lot of us have that, here in California, especially with all the fires and the stuff we've been going through. Guess what is in my emergency backpack? A Journeyman. I don't remember what it is, but there's one of your chubs in there in the event that I need to, I'm not no way to cook. Yeah. So anyway, well, I have enjoyed this so much.
Let's survive with flavor, Kim. Let's survive with flavor.
I hope you have some wine in there too.
So I know Andy wanted to jump in here.
Where's Andy? Andy, raise your hand. Oh, okay. Awesome. Hi, Andy. I think you're on mute.
We can't hear you. I know you're not on mute, but we can't hear you.
Before Andy talks, is that cat drinking the wine? Hi, Bruce.
Okay, well, hopefully once we can hear you, we'll jump in. But we did have one other question was, how long will salumi last in a fridge once it's been opened? Though I just eat it all in one serving.
Well,
yeah. If you have that kind of self-control.
No, if it's the chub, The important thing is to wrap it tightly in saran wrap, put it back in the fridge. And it's going to be okay for a week or two, but it will get mold around the sides and on the face where the last cut was. Just cut off where the last cut, do one or two slices and discard that. And you should be okay to go. But it's a living probiotic entity, and it will grow more mold in the fridge. So it's better to, eat half, wrap it tight, and then have the other half within a week. But
so that's another thing I just learned, because we tend to put it back in the refrigerator uncovered, assuming that it should be dried out. Does anybody else do that? Maybe that's just our thing, but anyway, so wrap it in saran wrap really tight and like twist the end.
We try to vacuum seal all of our salami every night at the shop. So if you have a vacuum machine, that is the best thing to do, is to use a vacuum machine it needs to be in a zero oxygen environment to stop the mold growth from starting up.
And Pete, can you freeze the salamis or no? No. And then Andy was trying to ask, his sound wasn't working, but he was asking about your slicing machine again. So he was wondering how many club memberships do we need to get to do that? But
if you bring me 500 club memberships, you get a free machine. No, each machine's like $5,000.
So. Yeah.
Oh wow.
I'm at the shop for $4,000. They're crazy.
Yeah,
but
they're crazy.
I think the guillotine is better for you, Andy. The guillotine's what about?
Yeah, go with the guillotine. That's a good idea.
Andy, I think you should get us 500 members, and I'll be happy to get it to you. Where do you live?
Yeah, they usually have a whole group there, so they've already got like 6 members right there.
I'm all in. I'll drive it to you.
Yep, and Rachel wanted to assure everyone that the cat isn't drinking, so we're good on that.
That's not drinking. It is such an honor to see the inside of people's homes. I'm sorry, I'm like a voyeur looking at your homes and all that beautiful wine cellar. Wow, O'Donnell says that. Yeah, right. But thank you for letting us in your homes. It's been far too long.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. We'll wrap up now, but if there's any questions, please don't hesitate to send them to me or send them to Kathy, and we'll get back to you just as soon as we possibly can. Again, thank you for joining us. We're just having so much fun with us. So please keep joining us. Our next couple of ones that you should know about already, but just in case you don't, we have our Thanksgiving themed wine tasting on November 19th. That is with our winemaker, Tim Bell. And Darren Abel, who we all know and love, will be making his appearance in there to talk about his favorite food pairings and things that he loves for Thanksgiving. If you're one of our club members, if you haven't thought about it, this is a good time to join, because we have a club member exclusive holiday virtual extravaganza. We're very excited about. It's going to have a lot of small group breakouts, so you won't have to be on mute. You'll actually be able to interact with Kim and Dawn, interact with our winemakers. Darren and Ian might have a few things up their sleeves. So that's a really great opportunity. If you're on the fence about joining the club, it might be worth it just for that. And then we'll be doing a really fun one in January. It's not on the website yet, but I'll put a little sneak peek of it for you, that Kim and her dad, Dave, will be doing a 1972 inspired tasting with the 3 first wines that we made, Chenin Blanc, Fumé Blanc, and Chardonnay. So
I'm so excited about that.
That's exciting.
Yeah. Kim, bring back the old label are you bringing it back for the 50th?
Well, I don't want to give I don't want to do the big reveal, but there's things up our sleeves here. We're working on this.
yeah.
Can I just take a moment to blatantly brag, because I'm amongst friends here. You all are my friends and you're like family. So our Fumé Blanc, Kathy, I haven't told you this. Our Fumé Blanc just got a 91-point score in the Wine Spectator.
Wow.
Woo! And what is so special about that is that they gave a very high score to a really, a wine of great value. It's not a super expensive wine. So you guys will get a kick out of this. Sarah sent an email out to the whole team, and of course everybody's really excited here. Guess who responded first? My dad. And my dad sends an email to the entire winery staff and says, I just wanted to let you know that in 1972, Robert Finnegan proclaimed the 1972 Fumé Blanc the world's best Fumé Blanc But good job, Tim Bell. Anyway, we all we laugh, and I share that with Kathy and Pete because they certainly understand the nuances of a family business. So anyway, thank you everybody for joining us. You mean the world to us. Pete and Kathy, thank you for spending this hour and a half with us and for gracing us with these delicious salamis. And God bless everybody and stay safe, and we'll see you next time.
All right, good night, everybody.
Bye.
Good to see you guys.